So what I put a prompt up last week about a Q&A. There was two responses that were pretty similar. So I want to talk about them each and sort of how they relate to one another. And the first one, and I'm paraphrasing here, I don't have it right in front of me, but it was, what's something that's always come easy to you in terms of training in something that you've always struggled with? And I'm assuming that means body parts, not necessarily movements, but those two aren't necessarily separate. Not in every case, anyway. But, you know, in terms of training and muscle groups, things that have always come, I shouldn't say easy, but more natural for me, I would say my legs. But I was an athlete in high school and college, and was a highly competitive cyclist and lower body dominant sports most of my life. So obviously, my leg development, I believe, is largely to do with my athletic background growing up. So as I branched into bodybuilding and then powerlifting, and now back to bodybuilding, it's just one of those things that seems to come back pretty easily. That concept of muscle memory. I'm sure you've heard of it. When it comes to athletes and older athletes, whether you're, an amateur athlete, like a weekend warrior, whether you compete in bodybuilding or powerlifting, or you just want to look better in a pair of swim trunks, it's difficult to develop legs. It's a challenge, just because, it's 2/3 of your body, right? So it makes things a little bit more difficult, and it's taxing. It's not easy to go through a hard lower body training session. And but that being said, I also like that level of pain, so to speak, when it comes to lower body training. I think it's fun. I really do enjoy it. But that's something that came pretty easily to me. So, in an area that's always been more of a challenge for me is my arms. Again, this is just being nitpicky, right? So, for all intents and purposes, I think my body's pretty well balanced in terms of musculature, upper body, lower body, yada yada. But from a competitive bodybuilding standpoint, you're always trying to push the envelope. So that's an area that I've always struggled to develop. It's interesting. When I talk to guys that they've just struggled to develop their legs, I don't get it, right? Obviously, because I don't have that experience. And as I'm talking to a lot of them, I'm like, but your arms are ginormous. So, there's that that sort of duality there. But it's not that it can't be done. I just have to train more intentionally when it comes to my upper body, because I know, whether it's a chest workout, a shoulder, or a back workout, if I train my biceps and my triceps first in those workouts, I tend to see better progress, just because I have the energy to focus on those weak points, so to speak. So it really, in that, kind of bridges into the second response that I wanted to reference, and it was an arm and shoulder question about how to develop them. And again, if it's a weak point, whatever, it could be arms, your shoulders, your back, your legs, whatever your weak point is, or the area that you want to develop or change, you want it to look better. When you go into your training week, prioritize those weak points. Spend the most of your time and energy training those weak points. Maybe not most of your time, I'm sorry. I don't want to get too far off topic here. And I shouldn't say most of the time. But if your arms or your shoulders are a concern, prioritize those movements first in your workouts. When it comes to my arms, right? Biceps, triceps, I'll put them at the front end of a workout because that's when I have the most energy, when I have the most focus. And on the flip side, say I'm doing a back workout, which you've done a back workout, if you're not intentional with your movements, you're going to use a ton of bicep. So if I just smoke my biceps before that back workout, I'm going to have to use my back. I can't take my biceps out of it completely, but I'll throw some straps on so I don't have to worry about my grip at that point. And I'm just super intentional with my back movements later that workout. Same thing goes for shoulders, prioritize, your pressing movements. You separate your shoulder. A lot of times people will do like back and shoulders, or they'll throw shoulders in with another workout. And it really depends on your schedule too, right? So you might do a push-pull leg split. Maybe you only get to the gym 2 or 3 days a week. But you also have to ask yourself, like, how important is that particular area, right? If you really want to develop your shoulders, dedicate a day to it, right? So don't just throw it in at the end of a workout, do a couple sets, but really focus a lot of time and attention on developing your weak points. But not, this is what I wanted to get to in terms of like, spend most of your time doing X. Don't prioritize a weak point at the sacrifice of another, right? So it's probably going to require you to do a little bit more work. That's just the truth. You're going to have to spend more time in the gym. If you want to develop a weak point, you can't do it with less time, because then you're going to take away from something that might be a strength, right? If my legs are a strength and my arms are not, and I spend an extra day training, more time training my arms to develop those, but then I cut back on the amount of times that I train legs or the time that I train my back, it's going to show up there down the line. So long story short, that was a really long-winded response. Add in more space to train your weak points. Prioritize your weak points earlier on in your workouts, and try to be objective. And I know that's difficult. If you're trying to be a highly competitive bodybuilder, that's a different question. If you're just trying to look good at the beach with your shirt off, take an objective look about where you are, and then assess your priorities in the gym. And you also have to account for your other variables. If you're trying to gain muscle, you're trying to put on noticeable size, it's not just as simple as doing more work in the gym. You have to feed your body more. So, I'm trying to get to a certain body weight before I start a contest prep, which means I'm pushing an uncomfortable amount of food. However, that in turn is making me stronger in the gym. So it's about your priorities. So take a good, honest look about where you are and what it is that you want to change and how much of a priority it is. You might not live in a gym. You might not have a gym that's 2 minutes down the road from your house. You might have some job responsibilities that keep you're working 12, 14, 16 hours a day, so your time is limited. So you really have to take a look at your life as a whole and how you can fit in more training time or more time for meals. I actually took a look at my schedule. I changed it and I worked on it yesterday because I'm missing meals. So I'm now putting it in my schedule. There's times 15 minutes here, 15 minutes there, 15 minutes here, or a little notification pops up on my phone that tells me to eat. So I'll stop what I'm doing, I will eat quick, and I'll get back to work. Because if I don't, I'll skip it. So pretty long answers to two of those prompts. But the biggest takeaway is, if you have some concerns about it, if you have questions about it, reach out to me. I'm more than happy to either meet you in the gym or jump on a call with you, kind of walk through what you're doing and set you in the right direction. Not a sales pitch. That's just a genuine, that's what I like doing. So if you have some questions about either of those, right, let me know. Or if you have any other questions, happy to help. On that note, happy Monday. Have a great week. Let's get it done.